Hello and welcome to another episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. Today is Friday, November 4th, and this is episode number 40. It has been a very quiet week. I say quiet, it's still, there's been a fair bit happening, but it hasn't been astronomically busy. So, we're sort of approaching that time of year where the news is going to slow down a fair bit. We will get, maybe one or two sort of reveals or info drops a week. Obviously, in December, Jeff Keighley's Game Awards will take place, so there should be a fair bit of news from that one. Even if it's just trailers for games we already know are coming, but, that'll be our sort of last chance of the year to get information. So, because, we're in that sort of release period, all the big games are coming out or have just come out, we're sort of at that point where things are going to be really slow for the next couple of weeks. So we have some big news from the week, but there's just not a lot of news, right? We only have like 7 stories to talk about. So it's really not a lot at all. But yeah, it is interesting. Nonetheless, there's some, PlayStation stuff, some, Ubisoft stuff, and a bit here and there for other games. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get straight into it. Let me just turn that down a little bit. But yeah, so we're going to get stuck into the fact that The Last of Us, the TV show, has an air date. So about a month ago, as part of some HBO promo for the... what do they call it? They used to call it Infection Day, but in 2020 they changed the name because, a global pandemic made for a poor name. But on The Last of Us Day back in October, they released a teaser trailer for the TV show. Many people, myself included, were expecting that, we were going to see this maybe 6 months from now, 6 months from that date. Maybe sort of coming into, the winter months. I even speculated maybe they're going to hold it for another year so we get everything in one sort of fell go. No, that is not the case. We're actually getting it January 16th. So we have a fancy new poster here. It's not really anything special. It's literally just, the characters of Joel and Ellie walking through an overgrown street. The title of the show, and then January 16th on Binge. Now, if you are watching this and you're not in Australia, you're in the US or somewhere where HBO Max does exist, it will be on HBO Max in that, if that is supported in your country. Here in Australia, HBO Max does not exist. They have a sharing agreement with a streaming service called Binge. So Game of Thrones, Euphoria, all that sort of stuff is on Binge, which is why this will be on there. We do know a few extra details now because of this news. The first is that it will be 9 episodes. We do not know how long these episodes will be. They could be half an hour long, they could be 50 minutes long, they could be an hour and 10 minutes long. We really don't know. But there are 9 of them. We also got some confirmation on some additional cast members. I haven't put that in here just because it does somewhat spoil. If you know the actor and you know the role, you know the character, well, the actor and the things that they tend to do, it may spoil it. So I've left that out. Of course, Pedro Pascal is playing Joel and Bella Ramsey is playing Ellie. Those two had been together in Game of Thrones. So this is, them back together again. Obviously, Pedro Pascal is also, in as part of the official... press release about all this, they said, he's from Wonder Woman 1984, which is technically true. He was sort of the bad guy in that, but he's, most predominantly known these days as the Mandalorian. So there's still a fair bit going on there. I won't play the teaser trailer, just in case you haven't seen it, you want to remain unspoiled. If, however, you've played the, original game, be it on the PlayStation 3, the PS4 remaster, or the PlayStation 5 remake, there's some, shot-for-shot elements from that trailer from the game. So, it is nice to see that it is going to be here a lot sooner than expected. Much like all the HBO stuff, and same with Disney Plus, it will be a weekly drop. So we're looking towards the end of March, if we keep up this cadence. And I said it's the 16th here in Australia, which makes it a Monday. So it's a Sunday night in the US, for them. So that'll be the 15th for them. But yeah, it is great that it's coming a lot sooner than expected. Excuse me. Hopefully it lives up to whatever hype they have, they build for it. The obvious issues, though, is that it could just be a direct adaptation, which is almost what we saw with the Tomb Raider movie, I can't think of her name now. The one from a couple of years ago. They basically retold the exact same story as the reboot game, but, some of the elements were like shot for shot. They sort of used the game as an animatic, if you will, to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. That didn't do so well because, none of the gamers wanted to go see it because, they already played the story. And, without the context of all the stuff that Lara goes through over like 10 to 12 hours in the game, it was a little hard for some, general movie viewers to sort of grasp why she was also, slaughtering everyone all of a sudden, stuff like that. So hopefully this one, they do a bit more to it. Unfortunately, because it is inspired by, it should stick pretty close to it, which means, there may not be as many surprises as people may hope. Moving on, though, from the end of the world, we're going to talk about the World Cup, specifically the Soccer World Cup, and the fact that the FIFA 23 game is getting the update next week for it. So the World Cup, obviously, is taking place in Qatar. We're not going to get into the political, and ideological issues that, a country like Qatar, hosting the world event, brings forth. We're just going to be focusing on the video game aspect of it. Specifically, FIFA 23. So this is every single version of FIFA 23 except Switch, and that also includes the mobile game for FIFA, is getting World Cup content. So there is a trailer here that does a deep dive. They talk about a lot more things than I will. It is definitely worth watching if you are, remotely interested in, checking that out. I will put the trailer in the chat there. Basically, though, so the 32 qualified teams are being added. Official stadiums are being added. There's tournaments and all sorts of stuff that'll go for the length. There's an online tournament that'll run for a set period of time. But you can also replicate the in-game, results to sort of, so if you're playing as Australia and, they get knocked out, you can, have them drop out and you pick up a different team and keep playing. There's a lot of stuff going on with it. I said the stadiums are being replicated, the uniforms for the teams are being replicated. Here's just a couple of them. They haven't released a lot of information yet, unfortunately, because, they want to keep things secret, which I get, but at the same time, boo. I said FIFA Mobile is also getting all this content as well. So FIFA Mobile is a little different, is that they're getting the same 32 qualified teams, but they're also getting a bunch of additional teams. So if they're a country that didn't quite make the cut, they'll be in the mobile version. You can play as them if you wanted to do that. The presentation in both games will be updated to use the TV, assets. So everything will look the exact same. So there'll be people that have the overlays, the replay graphics, all that sort of stuff will be brought in as well. It's pretty much it, it's the same sort of stuff we've seen in years past. It's just, now included inside of the existing FIFA game. So a few years ago they did this, but before then, it was, there would be FIFA, oh god, what was it, FIFA 15 maybe, and then there was the Rio World Cup game, right? So they always release them sort of separately. This is no longer the case. They're including it here. Obviously, though, there is no more FIFA games from EA now. This was the last game for them. The agreement ran out last year. They did a 1-year extension with FIFA to make FIFA 23, and next year it'll be EA Sports FC, football club. But yeah, so it is interesting that we are getting it still, even though the agreement is sort of lapsed, but it is what it is, I suppose. Moving on to the world of Marvel, specifically Marvel's Midnight Suns. The first of the prequel shorts dropped during the week. So the prequel shorts are a series of animated shorts, 7 or 8 minutes in length, and they specifically dive into characters. Why is Iron Man involved in this? Why is Spider-Man involved in this? Excuse me. So in the art here that you can see, with Wolverine, Spider-Man, Iron Man on the left, Blade, Scarlet Witch, and Ghost Rider on the right, and at the back is Huntress. Huntress is your character, but unlike, you can't change the way Spider-Man looks. Spider-Man will look like Spider-Man. Huntress is completely original. You can, make Huntress look any way you prefer. The prequel shorts, the Salem Sisters short, tells why, so this is Lilith, this is the bad guy, but it tells you how Lilith came to be, why she's so intent on doing what she's doing, how Huntress plays a factor in that, and all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not going to play it here, obviously, because you'll need to watch it with audio. I will post the link in the chat, so if you are watching on Twitch, you can check it out there, and it will be in the show notes below on YouTube. But so specifically, we have, there's only going to be, I think, like 5 or 6 of these leading up to the release of the game. So the game is coming out on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S this December 2nd. The Xbox One and PlayStation 4 versions, along with the Nintendo Switch version, are not yet dated. They were apparently, they were supposed to come out alongside the game when it was dated back in for September. When it was, delayed yet again to an unknown date. They said they were focusing on the PC and next-gen consoles. The previous-gen consoles and Switch would come, later on. But there's no details for that date. So if you are somewhat interested in checking out, all this, lore, so you can hit the ground running in the game, definitely give it a watch. I did watch it. It's fantastic. The animation reminds me very much of the DC style. So the DC animated movies that they've been doing a lot over the past 7 or 8 years now. It's got that very similar, visual style. They also have a very cool opening, cutscene, which will be playing, I say cutscene, but it's an opening scene that'll play in front of all of them. So that's something to keep an eye on. Moving away from Marvel and talking about monkeys, Monkey Island is coming back to more platforms. So Return to Monkey Island released in September for both PC and Switch. We reviewed it here at Maxi-Geek. We gave it a 9, having played the PC version. It is a fantastic entry. The ending is not as strong as I was hoping for, but it is definitely one to play if you're a fan of the series like I am. When they announced it, it was announced for PC only to begin with. Then a few weeks later, Switch was added to that, and then since then it was pretty much radio silent on other platforms. They did confirm it was going to other platforms, but they would never confirmed what other platforms it was or when it would be. Many people just assumed it would be sometime in the new year, depending on agreements and all that sort of stuff. That is not the case because the game is coming next week. Specifically, it will arrive on November 8th for both PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. No Xbox One, no PlayStation 4, just the next-gen consoles. It is also launching into Xbox Game Pass, so if you do have an Xbox Series X or S, and you have a Game Pass subscription, it will be there for you on day one. Obviously, if you do not want to wait, you can get the game now on PC or on Switch, and it, plays beautifully there. The trailer is pretty much the same trailer that we've seen before. These are just a couple of stills that I took from the PC build while I was playing it for review. But yeah, so, it's nice to see that it is coming. I honestly would have thought it was going to come early next year, just because of, the team that put it together. They're a small team. clearly the engine that they built this on is more adaptable than I gave them credit for. So it's nice to see them getting into it sooner rather than later. Moving on, we're sticking with the M's. Apparently, it's an M episode. Marvel, Monkey, and now Mario. Specifically, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Ubisoft confirmed during the week some additional details about the season pass. So during the Ubisoft Forward event that took place in September, we got a teaser trailer at the end of the Mario plus Rabbids segment that confirmed Rayman would be appearing in DLC 3. So there are 3 DLCs as part of the season pass. It was confirmed afterwards that Mario and Rayman will not be in the same storyline. So the Rayman DLC will have you take Mario out and put Rayman in its place. Sorry, in his place. So there will be, a whole storyline with Rayman and the Rabbids, with Rabbid Peach and Rabbid Mario. We sort of knew that going in, but now we know some other details, specifically about the first 2. So the first one here is called the Tower of Doom, with 4 O's in the middle there, and it is the first DLC. The second DLC and the Rayman DLCs do not have names yet, but they are coming. So the first DLC will arrive early in the new year. The second DLC is the one that features this weird little evil goth-looking rabbit with the greenery around her. This one will arrive in the middle of the year, and then Rayman will arrive at the end of the year. The first one is called the Tower of Doom, and it'll have you encountering Madame Boistrella, who has Mario, Rabbid Peach, and old friends, clean up her multi-dimensional tower to save their old friend Spawny. Spawny is this guy here. Spawny was the rabbit who was inadvertently creating rabbified versions of Mario enemies in the first game. So that's him there. As I said, the second update, there's no name, but it has been confirmed that it's a new planet you'll go to. So there'll be new enemies, new environments, new puzzles, all that sort of stuff. And so the third one will be Rayman. Now, this is where things get really weird. And I say it's weird because it's a decision that they've made just to try and drive sales for their season pass. And that is that the first DLC, the Tower of Doom, will not be available to purchase on its own. So if you want that one, you have to buy the Season Pass. The Season Pass is available to be purchased now on its own. It's also included in the Gold Edition of the game. The problem is, if maybe you're not quite sold on extra content for the game, maybe you're happy with the full story experience of the game, but you want maybe to try one thing, you either have to wait till the middle of the year for the second DLC, or you got to buy the season pass to get all, and get all 3, and then hope that you enjoy what they do. It's honestly one of those things that annoys me when companies make these decisions, because this is not for anyone else's benefit except the company, in order to make money. Generally speaking, season passes are, they should be a discounted purchase. For example, the Outer Worlds season pass, I think, was like $34, $35 here. But the 2 DLCs on their own were like $22, $23 each. So you saved, about $10 by buying the season pass as opposed to buying the 2 pieces separately. We saw the same thing with the Doom Eternal season pass. It provided the 2 chapters at a discounted rate than buying them separately. We've seen it over the years with countless season passes, and that's fine. That is what it should be. It should be, hey, if you want the season pass, you're getting all the content, but you're going to save a few dollars. That is not the case here. They're not saying, yes, you can get this cheaper if you buy the season pass. They're saying, no, if you don't buy the season pass, you only get 2 pieces of content if you buy them separately. It's one of those decisions that does not benefit anybody except the company, and it's just utterly confusing that that's what they've decided to do. It may prove to be, a smart decision for them. I don't believe that will be the case. because we've seen it before with season passes, especially have long tails. We saw it with Immortals Phoenix Rising from Ubisoft. By the time the third DLC came about, most people had sort of moved on from that game, right? By the time all the DLC for Far Cry 6 finished up, most people had moved on. We sort of have to have these things, coming out at a really consistent pace post-launch. But yeah, it should be a maybe 90%. This cost of a season pass should be about 90% of the cost of buying all the content on its own. That is not the case here. That is just Ubisoft being Ubisoft, and it is an utterly confusing move that makes no sense. Hey Tabs, welcome in. Moving away from the M's, we're going to be moving into the world of PlayStation, specifically PlayStation VR2. Excuse me. So now, we've been hearing about the PlayStation VR2 for, maybe 18 months now. We saw the controllers a year ago. We saw the headset earlier this year. We got a tech breakdown a couple of months ago. And, with the way that they were dripping information about the hardware, many people thought it was never going to come out this year. That is, definitely going to be the case. It is now dated and priced here in Australia, and it is not cheap. The PlayStation VR2 will be releasing in February on the 22nd, and it is priced here in Australia at $879.95. So that is a staggering $80 more than the PlayStation 5 console, which you still need in order to play the PlayStation VR2. They are also doing a bundle with the PSVR 2 that is called the Horizon Call of the Mountain bundle. It is $960, and it comes with a code for Horizon Call of the Mountain. These are the two boxes for them. So this is the standard, basic edition. This is the Horizon edition. The headset doesn't look any different. The controllers don't do anything differently. It just comes with a code for the game. Now, we don't know what the price of the game is on its own. They've not confirmed anything about that yet, but there's an $80 price difference between the two. So my guess is it's either $80 or it's probably, $90. It's a bit of a discount, but they've not said. There is also a charging dock for the controllers that you can purchase. That is $80. So pre-orders will open up on the 15th of November. So most likely EB Games, JB Hi-Fi, Gamesman, the usual suspects. But if you were waiting for this, date and price confirmation and you haven't bought your PlayStation 5 yet, that means that you have to now spend minimum $800 to buy the disc-based version of the console. Then another $880 to buy just the VR headset. Plus, if you want to have the controllers charge without using a USB-C cable, another $80 then, right? So you're looking at nearly $1,800 to do this. It is an astronomical price tag, and I honestly, nobody that I know who is interested in this is going to get one day one because the price is just too high. Hardware is always expensive. That is not something that we can argue, against. It's not. It's not something that, we expected it to be cheap. Many people were, estimating that the price would be pretty close to the price of a console. The fact that it's more than the console, that is perhaps the part that really irks a lot of people, and myself especially, right? I bought the PlayStation VR in a bundle for $320, right? I have my Oculus Quest 2, and it cost me $400. Now, they say, this one has better screens and it's like, yeah, no, it doesn't. It has the same basic tech in it as every other VR headset around, right? This one now has cameras on the outside, whereas the PSVR 1 does not have cameras, right? You need an external camera. My Oculus Quest does not have an external camera because the cameras are built into it. So, they've already taken that into consideration. As you're saying, Tabs, too, with the price point of the games, and we'll get into some more game information in a moment. This is a VR exclusive title, at least for now, and it may be great, but it's like, VR games tend to be very short. They're played in spurts. They're played in 15 minutes, 20, 30-minute increments. And they're not usually, 15, 20-hour epics. They're usually shorter games. So, you're paying for your console, you're paying for the headset, and then you're paying for these games, and they're not exactly going to be, smashing, the play count or the hour count. Now, this is the worst part, is that this is not backwards compatible with any PlayStation VR1 game. So, if you own Batman Arkham VR, Iron Man VR, Arizona Sunshine, so any VR game or experience that you have on your PlayStation VR1, they are locked to that platform. So they will still work with your PS VR1 headset connected to a PlayStation 5, but you cannot use a PlayStation VR2 to play them. We also got confirmation that it is a USB Type-C connection to the console, so it means it just plugs straight into the front of the console. That was something that they hadn't confirmed yet. They just said it was a USB connection, and many people assumed it would be USB Type-C, but they never confirmed it. But it's nice to have that. The other part of the sort of news of all this is that we also got the reveal of 11 more PlayStation VR2 titles. Now, what is interesting about these is these are not all exclusive. Some of these games are already out on other platforms. Some of them are already out on PlayStation VR. These are just now, coming to PlayStation VR2. So I just put the list in alphabetical order. After the fall, that's on all VR platforms already. This is not exclusive, just a PlayStation 5, PlayStation VR2 version of that game. Cities VR, that is already out on other platforms like the Quest. That is just now coming to PSVR 2. Cosmonius High, I keep getting it tongue-tied over that one. This is a new one. This was announced. It's coming to all the other platforms as well, but it's not out yet. But yeah, this is not one of those games that, you see it and you think, man, I'm glad I have a PlayStation 5 for this. It's a visual powerhouse. It's definitely not the case at all. Crossfire Sierra Squad is one that I think looks very, very interesting. So the Crossfire series is based on the shooter from Smilegate. So Crossfire is the world's most played shooting game. It's massive in Korea. It's massive in China. People will say Counter-Strike Go is big, Call of Duty is big, Battlefront's big, Escape from Tarkov is big. So, they're big in sort of, English-speaking countries, but, when you've got, 2 billion people in Asia playing one game, your, 20 million Battlefield players looks pretty tame by comparison. So yeah, this is set in that same world. Crossfire Legion is in early access at the moment on PC. That is a real-time strategy game set within this universe. So the developers at Smilegate are really sort of expanding out, the stories and tales that are being, woven, from this universe. So it looks very, very cool. We saw there was one that came out last year that had you, skiing and shooting and stuff, and it looks very interesting. As well, this looks to be sort of very similar in terms of its gameplay. How it works with the PlayStation VR2 controller, we'll have to wait and see. We also got the reveal of, at least for now, the exclusive Dark Pictures VR game called the Dark Pictures Switchback. This is a standalone title. This is not connected to the main series of games that playing. So there was Man of Medan, Little Hope. I can never remember the one that came out last year. House of Ashes, and then the one that's coming out in a couple of weeks, The Devil in Me. So there's 4 of them. 3 of them at the moment, assumed to be 4, available on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. This is a PlayStation VR2 title at the moment, and it is a roller coaster simulator set within a horror world. I will not play the trailer because I do understand that some people may not like that sort of content, but it is here for your viewing pleasure. Correct, Tab. So that's the other thing too, is the PlayStation VR, the attach rate for that, Sony never revealed sales numbers for that headset, but all the estimates put it around 3%. Which, when you're talking about 3% against the PlayStation 4, which is, 100 plus million consoles, that's still, 3 million headsets. That's a decent, sales number. But, if you're developing a game and somebody says, hey, maybe put it on this platform so you can get 3 million players, or don't make it VR and you can get 100 million players, you sort of have to question, is it worth your time? And, we've seen it before with, early access, not early access, I should say, it's the wrong term now. But, release window titles, they tend to get a bit of support from the company that the platform is from in order to get support, get content built up. And that's the point that Tabs has made. That is exactly sort of what's happening. So that is something to take into consideration too. Now, none of these games are all day one. There's a few of them that are day one. Some of them are coming in 2023. There's no date beyond that. So even, we have No Man's Sky 2, Resident Evil Village is getting support for it. There's another one that I can't remember. And these 11, obviously Horizon. So there's, maybe 15 games that we know about at the moment that are PSVR 2. So, $880, and then, there's, not even enough games to use all your fingers and toes to count. That seems a little hard of a sell. But yeah, so the Switchback it's a roller coaster horror game. Hello Neighbor Search and Rescue is a new VR world set within the Hello Neighbor universe. This is coming to PlayStation VR as well as PlayStation VR 2. So if you're not looking for, an upgrade to the next piece of hardware yet and you still have the first generation, it is there. It is also coming to the other VR platforms. Interestingly, though, the game isn't being developed by the same team making the main game. It's being developed by the team that have done the recent Five Nights at Freddy's VR game. So, the developer still has some experience with it. They're just doing it, in a different world. The one that's very, very interesting is Jurassic World Aftermath. Purely because, A, it's the only game that didn't get a trailer, via the official PlayStation accounts. And I will just put this trailer on because I think it looks pretty cool. It's very comic book style. This is the, the Quest version of the game. So it will look slightly, better, at least hopefully, on the PlayStation 5 version. It is also coming to Switch next week as a non-VR experience. Though they've not confirmed if Labo VR will be supported for this version. But interestingly, the reason why this is very, very interesting, especially if you're a Jurassic Park fan or Jurassic World fan, like I am, is it's basically Alien Isolation, but with dinosaurs. So you have to be constantly on the hunt, on the lookout for Velociraptors, Dilophosauruses, T-Rexes. You can't just run around doing anything you want and shooting them because you don't have a gun. You have to, make use of all the nooks and crannies to, get away from things. So there's actually two parts. There's, part 1 and part 2. Part 2 came out earlier in the year for Quest and all that. So this is the collection. That's the trailer for part 1. This is the collection. It's coming to Switch next week, and then coming to, a bunch of other platforms next year. But yeah, it is essentially it's just Alien Isolation but in VR, so that's very, very cool. Another one that was announced is the Light Brigade. It is all PlayStation VR platforms, so PSVR and PSVR 2. It has been announced previously for other VR platforms. It's not an original title. It kind of reminds me a little of Half-Life Alyx, we jump here in the trailer. I don't know much about it because, I didn't deep dive into the PSVR 2 stuff during the week. I'll save that for another day, but it's there. Pistol Whip VR, it's just a VR version of the Pistol Whip series. That is coming. And then Tentacular, it launched, I want to say back in July or August for Quest. And it's a VR game published by Devolver Digital in which you are the giant squid, octopus, whatever you want to call it. And you, the day you are assigned your job, everyone in the town gets assigned a job by a giant machine. You are told that you're adopted. they tell you that day that you're not actually born on, you're not biologically related to anyone on the island. But it's basically a job simulator. You're helping, move shipping crates out of the ocean. You're helping rebuild, parts of the world, all that sort of stuff. And then the final game was Zenith: The Last City. I don't know anything about this one. It is there. I will throw the full story in the chat there. But yeah, so with, Horizon Call of the Wild, No Man's Sky, Resident Evil, there's just not a lot of games at the moment that to me would justify, an almost $900 purchase price, for all this content. The upside is that, this is an evolution of the PSVR, experience. So the reason why I'm saying that is because, when the PSVR first launched, same with when the first Oculus hardware launched, the HTC Vive, the Steam VR, all that sort of stuff, games were, very, very basic back then. The very first sort of big push for a VR game was Batman Arkham VR. And I remember seeing it and thinking, this doesn't look all that impressive. Visually it looked cool, but gameplay-wise it looked basic. But when I got my PSVR, I bought that and I popped it on, and 40 minutes later I was done, because it's essentially, you get to experience like 3 or 4 rooms inside of Wayne Manor, and one in the alley that, his parents were killed in. So, it was extremely basic stuff. Excuse me. And, a lot of early games were like that. So now that, VR's had a number of years to sort of establish itself, these games should be somewhat interesting. It does concern me, though, that, one of them is a roller coaster experience. There's obviously stuff, you're not going to be sitting there just watching stuff the whole time. It's still a game. But the whole locked to a single point of view, VR experience, that's really the worst thing for me. I do not like that at all. But it is there. As I said, it's been a really quiet week. I said there's been some big news, but there's just not a lot of news. So we're now going to talk about the games that are coming out this month. Normally, we do it in the first episode of every month. We're a few days into the month already, so some of these games have come out. But with that said, we're going to power through this list, and then we'll see where we end up. So already out so far this month is Doraemon Story of Seasons Friends of the Great Kingdom. It is a PC, PS5 and Switch game. It is a Story of Seasons game, but it features Doraemon. It's the second one. Nothing too, different about that one. Yesterday saw the release of The Chant for PC, Xbox and PlayStation 5. It is a horror, third-person horror, a sort of experience game that is available now. Iron Man VR came to Quest yesterday. It was formerly a PlayStation VR exclusive. It is now a Quest game, mostly because, who was it? It was either Epic or Oculus, one of the two. I can't remember which one. But they bought the developer Illphonics, so they bought a few VR developers. Today saw the release of Harvestella for both Switch and PC. Technically, it is tomorrow for us, but it should be sometime in the next couple of hours at the time of recording. But It Takes Two will be launching on Switch. This is the game that is only playable in co-op. You can play it locally, you can play across 2 Switches, you can play online. If you do play, via 2 Switches or online, one person needs to buy the game, and then they get what's called the Friend Pass, where they provide the code to the friend, and the friend downloads the game as well. So you don't have to buy 2 copies of the game. You just buy 1 copy of the game, and then 2 people can have it on 2 different machines to play the game together. It's very much like the Nintendo DS download play, that sort of experience. On November 8th, A Little to the Left will arrive for PC and Mac. It is on its way for Switch and mobile as well. It is a puzzle game where the puzzles, let me jump into it here. The puzzles are not traditional puzzles. It's basically OCD, the game, right? So everything, you have to sort of put things in the right order, put things back into their places, smallest to largest, stuff like that. As you find, as you start doing these things, there's no right way to solve a puzzle. There's no wrong way to solve a puzzle. And as you just saw, there is a cat that will come in and just start messing things up randomly as well, making you restart. So that looks very, very cool. Also on the 8th, Football Manager 2023 will arrive for everything except PlayStation 5. So on PC, it will be Football Manager 2023. On Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PlayStation 4, it will be Football Manager 2023 Console Edition. On Apple Arcade, iOS, and Android, it will be, and Switch, it'll be Football Manager 2023 Touch Edition. Same basic game across all three. They just sort of, label them a bit differently to say, this is, we're focusing on one platform over the other. The PlayStation 5 version was meant to launch. They found a bug, in the last minute sort of checks from Sony. They've had to delay the release of that one so they get it sorted. There's no new date, and anyone who has pre-ordered will be getting a refund on their order. Because they're not confident on they can get it solved anytime soon. Also on the 8th, we'll see the release of Sonic Frontiers for all the consoles and PC. I've been playing this already for review, so look forward to the review for that one. God of War Ragnarok will be arriving on November 9th for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. I have played this one, I have beaten this one, and my review for it is now live. I gave this a 10 out of 10. It is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. There's a bunch of issues with it, visually, little oddities and things like that. But the overall experience was just phenomenal from start to finish. I will not say anything more. The review is completely spoiler-free. It is also the final PlayStation 4 game from Sony, unless they have something super secret that they've been working on they haven't announced yet. Moving on, November 9th, we'll also see the release of Sifu on the Switch. It did release earlier this year for PC and PlayStation. This Switch is now just getting a port of it. On the 11th, which is next Friday, we will see the release of Tactics Ogre Reborn for Switch, PC, and both PlayStation consoles. Also on the 11th, we'll see the release finally for Valkyrie Elysium for PC. It came out a few months ago for PlayStation. The PC version was just given a different release date for whatever reason. They didn't say why, they just said it's coming later, and this is now later. The 15th, we'll see the release of Bravery and Greed from Team 17 for Switch, PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. Also on the 15th, we'll see the full release of Floodland on PC. It is a post-apocalyptic survival game. I'll just jump here into the trailer. So it's very much like all the other sort of games in that sort of genre, where you have to find resources to build things, survive, everything. This is after the world's been flooded, all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty, basic in its general idea of what it requires you to do, but there's more going on in the background. It is in early access now, so you can pick it up and give it a go if you want to. The 15th will also see the release of Pentiment from, Obsidian and Xbox. It is coming to PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. It will also be available in Game Pass on day one, as it is an Xbox game. Goat Simulator 3 is coming on the 17th for PC, Series X and S, and PlayStation 5, with that fantastic trailer mocking the Dead Island 2 trailer. The Dark Pictures Anthology will be arriving in a fortnight on the 18th of November. It's coming to PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, and it's the 4th entry in the Dark Pictures Anthology. We have a preview up for it now on the site. They seem to, the first game was very much like a Resident Evil style static camera. The viewpoint would change depending on where you move to. Now that's, it's a full open world. You can, interact with everything. So, they've been evolving everything based on player feedback over the years. So this one looks very, very cool. The 18th will also see the release of Spider-Man Miles Morales on PC. It's the same, thing we got with the PlayStation 5 launch. It's just the PC version of that. 18th being a big day, we'll also see the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. That is obviously a Switch exclusive. Just Dance 2023, that is incorrect. That should say November 22nd. That is coming to Switch, Xbox Series X and S, and PlayStation 5. Now, what is interesting about this one is there's no Xbox One or PlayStation 4 version at all. It is Switch, Xbox Series X and S, and PlayStation 5 only. There's no PC version, just those three. It is having a retail release, but it is a code in the box for all platforms. So if you have a PlayStation 5 and you want this game, you're better off just buying it on the store because you just have to download it anyway. All you'll get a fancy case to put on your shelf that has no disc. Don't know why they're doing it that way, but that's what they are doing. Obviously, it has a few big changes from years past. I'm not going to get into that now because I just can't remember them all. Obviously, it does come with Just Dance Now, which is the subscription service where you can access, it's probably like 600 songs at this point. The 22nd will also see the release of Evil West. This was delayed a couple of months ago to this month. It's a shooter set sort of in the West. Let me jump into the trailer here. Let me see if we can get some gameplay. So this is actually developed by Flying Wild Hog. This is their third game this year. So the first game was Shadow Warrior 3, which Devolver Digital published. Their second game was they helped in the development of Trek to Yomi, which was another Devolver game. And then this one, Focus Entertainment, is publishing it. An interesting Focus Entertainment bought out Flying Wild Hog as well because of this one. The 22nd will also see the release of Gungrave Gore, which is a highly anticipated sequel to Gungrave. It is, PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, as you might expect. The 22nd will also see the release from Team 17 of Ship of Fools for Switch, PC, Xbox Series X and S, and PlayStation 5. It is an end-of-the-world, not tactical, but like strategy game. So you can see a bit of the gameplay there. Finally, on the 30th, rounding out the month, will be Warhammer 40,000 Dark Tide. Interestingly, for the next couple of days, Warhammer Vermintide 2 will be free on Steam. If you redeem it, you'll be able to keep it forever in celebration of this game coming out. And that brings us to the end of the games. So that is everything for the month. It's not everything for the month of November. Let me rephrase that. It's all the big stuff for the month of November. So there is a lot of games to come this month. December is going to be very, very anemic comparatively. The first sort of week and change is very, very packed in December, but then after that it's pretty silent, apart from one or two little stragglers. For obvious reasons, the world will go into its usual holiday mode. That will bring us to the end of the show for this week. As I said, we're not dragging these things out anymore. When we're done, we're done. This will be, there's only 3 more episodes left this year for the Maxi-Geek Show. Obviously, there would have been more had I not been off sick. But there'll be one next week, then the 18th and the 25th. After the 25th, I will be off on holidays, my first holiday in a number of years, so I'm very much looking forward to that. So because of that, I will not be around, to do the show, because I will be traveling the world. We will be back around sort of the New Year period to do sort of an end of year special. We'll talk about some of the biggest stories of the year, some of the biggest games that came out during the year, things like that. But there's only a few more regular episodes left in the year, and then we'll be back in the new year for the regular show again. If you did watch live on Twitch, thank you for watching live. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you did watch the replay on YouTube, you can give us a like or a subscribe down the bottom. That will help us out. Otherwise, we will catch you online again on Tuesday for more Splinter Cell. We are slowly making our way through the first game in the series. There will be a big push on those games in the sort of the holiday break. We'll be getting stuck into some of that. But otherwise, we'll catch you back online for then. And until we see you online next time, happy gaming.